the dark art of ancient vivisection, between curiosity and cruelty. You're shackled to a cold slab of stone. Bronze tools glint in the flicker of an oil lamp. Around you, men in long robes speak in Greek, their voices steady but hushed. Their faces aren't filled with malice, but with fascination. This isn't an execution. This is an experiment. Today, we're going to step into the shadowy corridors of ancient medicine to explore a practice that sits at the crossroads of science and horror. Vivisection. It's the cutting open of living beings to study their inner workings. And while it's strictly controlled in modern animal research, the whispers of history tell us it may have once been performed on human beings. Vivisection isn't just surgery, it's invasive dissection while life remains in the body. In our era, the idea is met with instant revulsion. But in the ancient world, there were no ethical review boards, no anesthesia, and no clear line between medical necessity and cruelty. In most early societies, the human body was shrouded in spiritual taboo. The dead were buried or burned, not dissected. And opening the body of the living, that was unthinkable to most. But to some, the desire to understand life itself, to watch the heart pump, the lungs expand, the nerves react, was a temptation too strong to resist. The Alexandrian shadow. The most chilling accounts come from Alexandria, Egypt in the 3rd century BCE. This was no ordinary city. It was the beating heart of ancient knowledge. The famed Library of Alexandria held hundreds of thousands of scrolls. The city's rulers, the Ptolemies, poured wealth into science, philosophy, and medicine. Two names stand out: Herophilos of Chalcedon and Erasistratus of Ceos, Greek physicians whose discoveries shaped medical history. Herophilos mapped the nervous system, distinguished between motor and sensory nerves, and was the first to describe the brain as the seat of thought. Erasistratus studied the heart, separating veins from arteries and theorizing about the body's vital spirit. But their reputations carry a dark shadow. Roman author Celsus, in his medical treatise De Medicina, accused them of performing vivisections on condemned criminals supplied by the Ptolemaic kings. He claimed they cut open the living to see the truth of human anatomy firsthand. Later, Christian writers like Tertullian repeated the accusations, describing experiments in which beating hearts, breathing lungs, and spasming muscles were studied as the subject slipped toward death. Were these acts real, or the invention of enemies? If Alexandria's accusations blur the line between science and brutality, Rome's spectacles obliterated it entirely. In Rome, we find no credible evidence of organized, scientific vivisection, but we find plenty of violence that mirrored it. Public executions, crucifixions, burnings, and the infamous damnatio ad bestias, or condemnation to the beasts, often left victims torn open before roaring crowds. Gladiator games forced fighters into lethal combat. The arena was an anatomy theater of a different kind. Wounds split flesh, exposed organs, and sometimes gave physicians the chance to observe the living body's reactions. On the battlefield, Roman military surgeons gained knowledge by treating, and sometimes failing to treat, terrible injuries. In these cases, the anatomy lesson was an unintended side effect of violence. Not every culture crossed the line. In ancient Egypt, bodies were preserved through mummification, but dissection was rare and bound by ritual. In India, Hindu and Buddhist traditions emphasized ahimsa, non-violence, discouraging harm to living beings. In China, medicine was rooted in balance and energy flow, not invasive anatomy. Even in most of Greece, corpse dissection was considered morally questionable. But Alexandria was different. A cultural melting pot where royal authority could shield experimental practices from public outrage. Here lies the historian's challenge. Not a single surviving text from Herophilos or Erasistratus admits to vivisection. Every claim comes from later sources. If it's true, ancient medicine was centuries ahead of its time, but achieved through the suffering of the condemned. If it's false, then these are among the earliest examples of propaganda, perhaps designed to tarnish pagan science with images of cruelty. Either way, the story survives because it's unforgettable. The ethical mirror. The debate over vivisection echoes into our own time. In the 20th century, doctors in Nazi camps conducted experiments on prisoners without consent. In the United States, the Tuskegee syphilis study left hundreds untreated, so researchers could watch the disease progress. The moral question is timeless. Can knowledge ever justify the method of obtaining it? Ancient Alexandria's alleged experiments may be unprovable, but the dilemma they pose remains urgent. Science pushes boundaries. Ethics must chase to keep up. Whether the rooms of Alexandria's medical schools echoed with the screams of the living, we may never know. But the story forces us to face something deeper. The way human curiosity can blur into cruelty. We are still asking the same question they might have asked 2,000 years ago under the flicker of torchlight. What are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of discovery? History is written in ink, but sometimes it's etched in blood.